I'm always collecting and showing my 90s action figures here, but sometimes a line has a character missing that you feel like should have been made because of how important they were. So here's my top 10 characters that are missing from these 90s action figure toy lines. Number 10. Gozer from Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters action figure toy line was mostly about the cartoon that came after the movies. But we had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and the Green Ghost in Slimer. It was a little strange that we were missing maybe the main kind of villains straight out of the movie in some kind of action figure form. Gozer, or maybe even Vigo from Ghostbusters 2, were made for pretty spooky action figures. They weren't really movie collectible action figures at that time back then. So this was kind of the only thing a fan of the Ghostbusters films could buy. Probably would have been cool to sneak in some of the movie villains. I think they would have looked pretty cool in this style, kind of souped up, maybe with a cool scary feature of some kind. Sparking Gozer or some kind of scary face Vigo. But there were main villains straight out of the cartoon that didn't get action figures either. Number 9. Cyborg Superman from the Man of Steel line. This toy line came about from the Death of Superman comic and its huge popularity. So of course there are figures of Superman and Superman in his recovering suit. Spoiler, he comes back to life. But there were other Supermen, an entire reign of Superman in fact, like Steel, Superboy, it's the Metropolis Kid, even the Eradicator, and of course there's Doomsday. But the real villain of that story ended up being the Cyborg Superman. He started to take over after Superman's disappearance or death. All these special Supermen were even playable in the video game at the time, including Cyborg Superman, which was always cool looking because he was kind of like half Terminator Superman. It was kind of cool that we ended up getting to play as a villain for a few levels as the story progressed. It was always unclear which Superman was the real good one of the groups. But for some reason the whole toy line really excluded that character that would have been a really awesome figure. The Superman that's like got the Terminator like endoskeleton coming out from the inside. Terminator toy line was plenty popular, just for the cool looks. So I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity, and that was one of my favorite characters from the story and game. I always wanted an action figure of him. And they just kind of skipped over him for all the other wacky Superman versions. So I always felt like he was really missing from this toy line. Number 8. Sarah Connor from the Terminator 2 toy line. So many different Arnie variations in the Terminator line. Even some T-1000s and stuff, and then some endoskeletons and everything. We even got John Connor with an action figure. He just has his little dirt bike. But we're missing a pretty important character here. There was no Sarah Connor action figure, even like decked out in her combat gear from all her action scenes in that movie. We didn't get anything. But as you'll see as this list goes on, a lot of the excluded characters were the ladies. Probably because fears of them not selling as much as all the other male characters in a mostly male marketed toy. But she was a main character in the film, and I think her and her combat gear alone would have been exciting enough. You give a cool enough feature and stuff, you want to have the whole team taking on the T-1000. So maybe she didn't need, 6 or 7 variants or anything, but I think one, just like John Connor got, would have made a lot of sense for this toy line. But now she's just kind of weirdly missing. John is all alone. Number 7. Dr. Wily from Mega Man. The Ruby Spears cartoon in the 90s got its own action figure line. These toys weren't based on the games, they were based on the cartoon that was based on the games, that was based on the base. But anyway, I really liked, because of the games I would always play at the time. But when I would play with these toys, what was missing was like the main villain to kind of order all the robot bosses around. I didn't have a Dr. Wily. So Cutman had to get promoted to the leader when I would play with this. Or maybe figures from other toy lines to kind of represent a evil boss of some sort. Seemed like a good opportunity to sell a big Wily machine toy as well, like a vehicle kind of thing that he would have been in. Something that looks like the final boss of a lot of the Mega Man games. Could have made a little extra money out of this toy line. Of course, honorable mentions to Dr. Light and of course Roll, who kind of got upgraded and aged up with a little more weaponry in this cartoon. I believe they had some minifigures, but not the larger articulated figures at all. Just a couple main Mega Man figure characters that I would like to see. Number 6. Tula from Pirates of Dark Water. Maybe a little lesser known cartoon and unfinished cartoon series. Actually did get some pretty cool looking toys. Some nasty villainous pirates and all of our heroes, except we just got this pudgy guy that was in like 1 or 2 episodes. They didn't give the magical character that was part of the crew, Tula, probably the same fear of it's a girl figure in a male-aimed toy line. But being a main character in almost every episode, I think she should have got a figure. She would have stood out with all these guys probably being a lot smaller. She had good colors on her costume. She could have had some cool swords like the others, or maybe some kind of magic effect to differentiate her. But now our main hero group is kind of broken. Just Zuli joining in. Oh boy, this is... And guess which figure was the shelf warmer of the whole group? It was Zuli. So oopsie, you still had a shelf warmer, because nobody knew who that was. Should've went with Tula. I think she would have sold a lot better. She's a lot better looking, at least, than Zuli. Or at the very least, maybe one of the other villains instead, if you were gonna skip. Basically, nobody wanted Zuli. Sorry, Zuli, you look kinda cool, but there were just better options than you. Number 5. Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy. Here's one that a lot of people don't know even had an action figure line, but it was mostly just variations of Ren and Stimpy, no other characters. But I know I really would have enjoyed having like a big Powdered Toast Man action figure, because he was kind of the superhero spoof. Obviously I love superhero stuff, so it's always very funny to me to have him there acting really dumb, and then just the little intercut Powdered Toast commercials where he would take a huge fart right on her food before he threw away. And then that's what actually made it taste good as well. He flew away without farting once and just didn't taste the same.
I almost forgot.
But for all uniquely molded figures of different versions of Ren and Stimpy, I feel like maybe a couple famous characters could have got mixed in here. Mr. Horse, or something like that. I think Powdered Toast Man might have been the winner and a good choice to go with these. I like all the wacky features and getting different shapes and looks of them, but would have liked to see more characters. And if I had Waffle Woman too, then I could have just played Powdered Toast Man all day long. We could just destroy the earth fighting each other forever. Number 4. Rita Repulsa from the mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The main villain of the whole show. Of all the different scales and sizes of action figures that they released when Power Rangers started up. They made all sorts of monsters that were only in like 1 episode, but they didn't make the main villain, Rita. Probably another fear about the lady figures, but I was always looking for one, even if it's a smaller scale or something. They had a prototype and were going to do it and it never came out, so I was always wanting one, but they just never got included in the original toy line, and that's typically what I collect here, is just the actual toys from the time period that something came out and was new and popular, or at least had a toy line, and I liked it. Maybe it wasn't so popular. In Power Rangers' case, it was pretty popular and had a lot of toys. But no big scale Rita, no smaller 5 or 6 inch Rita. Possibly there was a Micro Machines or something like that. And I certainly had the Spin Fighter of Rita, because I had all the Spin Fighters. But a good action figure, they never really got to her in the original line. Had to wait until Lord Zed came along so I could have a main villain. But I guess he was more toyetic or something. Number 3. Wonder Woman for total justice. Some DC superheroes straight out of the comics of the time. Got some action figures. Plenty of Batman toy lines. We had the Superman toy line. But where could you get Aquaman and the Flash and Green Lantern? If not going back way before to the Superpowers toy line that was a little too old for me to ever find. I saw pictures and really wanted to find them all, but never could. But thankfully in the 90s we got some crazily posed versions of these heroes. But among the Justice League roster, with the likes of Hawkman, Black Lightning, and Green Arrow, there was no Wonder Woman, which was kind of a main character of the Justice League. And I've gotten kind of conflicting information of whether there was a rights issue to the character or where she was in the comics of the time as to why they didn't make a figure. But in the end, since this toy line was just kind of general for DC Comics at the time anyway, it would have been good to have some of the major characters like Wonder Woman. Some honorable mentions would be maybe some more villains too, since they kind of skimped on that. And even still around the same time up until the year 2000, there's not really a Wonder Woman that's in scale with this line either. So you can't even sneak her in from another older toy line. So she just feels like a big omission from this like Justice League themed Total Justice toy line. Number 2. Princess Daisy from the Super Mario Bros. The movie! The toy line for the movie was pretty big for me because I always wanted some action figures of a lot of the games I used to play all the time. I wanted to play with toys of them. Was lucky to get the Mega Man, but here we had Mario because they had the 1993 film live action. And I just ran with it as my Super Mario action figures. They looked good enough for me to play with. I liked the movie too at the time. And I still like it as like a really crazy post-apocalyptic version of Mario. Really cool adaptation. Certainly not a direct version or anything, but there was already a cartoon at the time that pretty much was. So this is a really fun relic of this time period. A bold choice. But we were missing the princess. In this movie it was Daisy. She could have been in her kind of like normal archaeological attire, or she did get like a almost Princess Toadstool / Peach style dress. Either way, a fairly large omission from this little toy line that I liked. And what about Yoshi, too? Oh, maybe I have that. It's worth a Google. Number 1. Loot and Plunder from Captain Planet. Okay, hear me out on this one. Loot and Plunder from Captain Planet is just like an evil businessman in a suit. He's just a jerk. As with most Captain Planet villains anyway. But I really love these toys, and I like the ideas of the powers and the combining to make the hero, and the really colorful villains as well, that all got some pretty cool action figures. There was one I was always missing as a kid that I really wanted, which of course was Captain Pollution, because those were my favorite episodes by far, when all the supervillains got evil copies of the rings. All the earthly elements got twisted into evil, polluting powers. But the 5 villains that could summon Captain Pollution included Loot and Plunder. So when I would play, I couldn't have those 5 to really do my versus setup for Captain Planet versus Captain Pollution. You had to sub in Hoggish Greedly or this guy, because those are the only other villains included in the whole toy line. So we had Duke Nukem for the super radiation power, but we didn't have Loot and Plunder for the deforestation power. But we had everybody else like Sly Sludge for smog, Verminous Scum for toxics, and the beautiful Dr. Blight with the power of hate. And thankfully, in recent times here collecting these, I did finally hunt down a Captain Pollution figure. Would have been nice to get their leader, Gaia, for the Planeteers as well, but seems like one that was planned in prototype phase, but we never got that one And I can understand skipping her since she was mostly just the one that sent them out on the missions. But I feel like we needed one more eco-villain just to kind of complete the Captain Pollution lineup, because that was my favorite storyline from the show. I have videos covering all these toy lines, and you'll probably hear me complain about these missing characters in those videos possibly too, which is why I thought to do this. So stick around here to see these if you haven't, and there's plenty more action figure lines I want to cover and talk about, and collect for myself, because that's what I do here. So let's complete our missing collections, and hope there's no more characters like these missing from the future toy lines I hope to cover here. So hopefully I'll get to see you in the next video.